Let me begin by saying, if any incident occurs in the district, any incident, regardless of criminality, the board takes action. If there's a criminal incident that takes place, we have a standard operating procedure. If it's criminal, we call the police. If it's potentially criminal, we call the police. In this incident, we call the police. And I have to just stress that enough. I mean, I've said it several times, but it's just so important to know that when we receive this information, that's what we did. And, you know, some of the people would prefer we did something different. Some of the people question why we interviewed kids or asked kids. Listen, when we received this information, we called the police. There were students who presented these allegations that you've been hearing about to their teacher, who was later brought to the building principal. The building principal contacted my office. We contacted the police department and institutional abuse. And that was Thursday. Upon receiving that information, I did contact the board president and said, we are going to have to suspend a couple of employees for misconduct. I shared with him some of the information. He supported the recommendation. And then we waited for police. Once the police come into a school, our investigation is over. We're not allowed to share the information. We're not allowed to interview anybody else. Anytime information comes in after the police, it's turned over to so the prosecutor's office, the institutional abuse, and the Long Branch Police Department are the investigators at that point. And I know a lot of people had questions about that. I want to say this though. If there's an incident where someone is confirmed that is a criminal act, my recommendation to the board certainly would be to terminate. And I just want to make that clear because I talked to parents yesterday and they said a lot of questions. What are you going to do about this? Are you going to suspend? Are you going to fire? Are you going to let them come back? I'm going to tell you, whatever incident comes, whatever comes forward, whatever information comes forward, if there's a criminal act found, I would always make the recommendation with a criminal act to terminate. So that was a lot of questions about that yesterday. I just want you to know those are the actions that I would recommend to the board. I'm fairly comfortable they would support that recommendation. When it comes to communication, as a superintendent, I have two choices. Act fast or be correct. That's it. If something happens, just act quick or wait and be correct. I want to share this with you, and you can criticize and understand. But fast is a digital phone call. Because someone said we get these voicemails, these automatic calls. Why didn't that go out? And just let me share, we did contemplate that on Friday afternoon as we're getting information. And here's what a digital phone call is. I have to summarize in 30 seconds on a phone to provide you with information that can change your world in 30 seconds on a digital message. And then here's the other piece, which is why I said we can't do this. How can I assure that the parent's going to pick up the phone? I can't. You know, I have young children. They pick up the phone. And I ask who's on the phone. Sometimes they don't know. And sometimes they hang up. I can't assure that the adults in the homes are going to pick up that phone. So the digital message, yeah, it sounds good. It's a great idea. It's really not a great idea. The other thing is somebody said yesterday, Mr. Salvatore, we get letters about lice. We get letters about bed bugs. Why did we get a letter? And I'm just going to share this with you. A letter with lice right now sits in a file in the nurse's office. The only thing that changed about that letter is the date on the letter. And maybe the homeroom. That's it. We don't have to contact Monmouth Health Center. We don't have to contact the police. We just take that letter and send it out so that if we find out at 2 o'clock if your child has head lice or somebody does, the whole class gets it by 3. But we don't have to contact anybody. In this situation, we have to reach out to institutional abuse, to the prosecutor's office, to Long Branch Police Department, and wait for them to tell me, here is the bit of information you can share. And by the time that happens, just so you know, it's 6 p.m. on Friday. To get information out to the Gregory School, minimally you've got to have it here by 3 o'clock. They need 30 minutes to copy and distribute to all. So for all of you, it's just second nature. Why wouldn't we just know about this? What happened? There's also, it happened on a Thursday. Do you realize there's Saturday and Sunday in between that? If this happened on a Monday, Wednesday's a different story. You see, having the gap in the weekend was one of the issues that hindered the communication. Now, by 6 o'clock on Friday, nobody in this room would have known about it until they received a letter from me on Monday. The only way you would have known about it if it did not hit the media was by word of mouth. And very few people knew about really what happened. And still, very few people know really what happened. But because we were here at 6:30, 7 o'clock, or whatever time it was on Friday evening and got a call from the media that somebody released information regarding this incident. And they wanted an immediate statement. And they said, if you don't release a statement, we will get our own statement. If you don't release something, we will find it. And that's what they tried to do on Sunday when they showed up at schools trying to pull people off the street. And I felt it was my obligation as superintendent to at least stand in front of somebody and say, here's what I know right now. And I know it didn't feel good that you found out from a Facebook page or from a news channel. I don't feel good about that either. And if I look back and I say, if I could have done something a little differently, getting you timely information certainly would have been something I've done. But I want you to know some of the thoughts that I was going throughout this process. It certainly sounds a lot easier than it is. And I realize that the next time I make a different mistake, I may send it out in a digital message, and maybe somebody will pick it up in your house, and you may not get it. But a lot of the feedback I received is that if you made the effort, we would have felt better. The last piece is moving forward. If you felt safe with your child coming to Gregory School on Wednesday of last week, you should feel 10 times safer this week. Because Wednesday last week, nobody heard about this incident. It didn't occur. And people felt great coming to school here. And we had systems in place. Now we've certainly looked at those systems. But the reality is it's not necessarily the systems. If you have adults who don't uphold the system, that's the issue. From this point forward, actually from Monday forward, anytime a bathroom or a classroom is being worked on, the door is to be locked. The person is supposed to check in at the office, as they do now, they always have. But the difference is the office will email the entire staff and say, room 212 is closed until further notice. Okay, so that's something we put in place. So whenever work's being done, someone's going to come in, they'll let the staff know, everybody in the building will know, the room itself will be locked, it will be closed, it will be marked. And there's somebody standing outside. So if a substitute teacher doesn't get the email, and a child happens to come out, there's somebody in the hallway say, listen, it's closed. And if for some reason that person who was standing outside, so there's several checks and balances, just doesn't happen to be there that day, the door's locked, and there's a sign on it saying it's closed. You see, there are 3 different layers in place now. So if you felt safe last Wednesday, you should feel even better about it coming to school tomorrow or the next day.